at 10, Nightmare Dreadbear. Dreadbear is a recent addition to the FNAF Freddy roster, being introduced in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC for FNAF Help Wanted. And I mean, it is a good design, okay? It's combining Frankenstein's monster with Freddy Fazbear. But the character overall wasn't all that scary until someone made a Nightmare version and a load of other people hopped on the bandwagon like it was on its way to Helgen. And whether it be a combination of Dreadbear and Nightmare Freddy, or like hell, even just a recolored Nightmare Fredbear, these versions of Dreadbear are vastly more terrifying than the original. I think Dreadbear is my personal favorite version of Fredbear. I love that DLC, honestly, it's so good. Although Shamrock Freddy is a close second. I don't know why my favorite Freddys are green, but oh well. In at 9, Steampunk Funtime Freddy. No doubt inspired by the steampunk event for FNAF AR, Steampunk Freddy is one of the tamer variants on this list. And while just changing the character to be steel and gold may do the trick, the different interpretations are what really make this version scary enough for the list. Particularly the Steampunk Titan Funtime Freddy, created by Hero Golem on DeviantArt. This thing looks like a beast and would honestly make me defecate in my pants, even if they aren't gold and are instead purple, okay? I have no doubt that this thing would crush me in a dark alley. I'm too scared to say that this thing isn't steampunk because there's no copper or something, because I feel like if I do say that, then they're gonna like come out of the screen and snap my neck. And you know what? This is like the second one on this list, okay? Just wait till you see the others. It's gonna be wild. Haha. Yeah. And a Phantom Freddy. The Phantom animatronics are hallucination variants of the original animatronics who haunt Fazbear's Fright throughout the nights in FNAF 3, okay? I know that they're actually in the games, but like, wait for it. The Freddy Files book also points out that these hallucinations also appear burnt, suggesting that they're warning you what's to come, okay? The Phantom animatronics first appeared in FNAF 3 as side antagonists, and some of them returned in Ultimate Custom Night, and then they all came back in Help Wanted. However, I know what you're thinking, okay? Connor, Phantom Freddy isn't a fan character, okay? He's just a version of normal Freddy. And you know what? While at surface level, you would be correct, there is actually a theory that makes this technically a fan version of Golden Freddy. That's right, I'm twisting the rules because it's fun. Phantom Freddy's model actually resembles Golden Freddy's appearance in the second game, due to the missing ear and the wires coming out of its eyes, and even the way that his hat is actually slightly tilted to the left. This has led many people to believe that the Phantom actually represents Golden Freddy instead, and after brightening up his jump scare, you can see that Phantom Freddy is actually really similar to Golden Freddy. This is also further supported in the code, as his events are listed under Golden Freddy instead of Phantom Freddy. So yeah, you know what? A fan theory makes this a fan character of a different version of Freddy. It's good enough for me.
Number 7, Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy also first appeared in FNAF 2. He is a version of Freddy who is replaced by Toy Freddy at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Being older, Withered Freddy is one of the animatronics kept around to be used as spare parts for the other animatronics. As such, he has fallen into a state of disrepair himself. He is tattered, torn up, and dirty, though he himself actually appears more well kept in contrast to some of the other withered animatronics like Bonnie, who, you know, doesn't even have a face. Poor withered Bonnie.
In at 6, Golden Glamrock Freddy. Golden Glamrock Freddy isn't a real character, obviously, but despite this, there are plenty of fan-made versions of Golden Glamrock Freddy, especially given his absence in the game, along with the various golden references, like the golden stack shoe, the golden plushie, etc. Whether they just be recoloring him, changing the palette, or making him pure metal, Golden Glamrocks are all over the place on Google Images and other sites like DeviantArt, but don't go too deep. Otherwise, you'll end up like me, constantly having nightmares of animatronics doing unsightly things and having to clear your search history on the regular. Luckily, I'm not logged into my own account at work, so have fun with those ads. But at least, you know what? At least it's a nightmare. But given the theory in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, if I'm having nightmares of being forced to watch animatronic coitus parties, a version of me in a different universe actually has to suffer through that, which is terrifying to think about. I wonder if anyone ever dreams through my eyes, then wakes up thinking that it was a nightmare. Halfway through into number 5, Nightmare Fredbear. One theory that I've seen plenty of times, and I'm pretty sure was mostly like a start of the FNAF 4 theory, was that Golden Freddy and Fredbear are the same animatronic. animatronic, suggesting the reason Golden Freddy is limp in the original FNAF and FNAF 2 are because his endoskeleton was removed after Crying Child's bite in 1983, and that's why the suit has to teleport around and cause hallucinations because it can't physically move. This would also probably mean that Crying Child was supposed to be in the Golden Freddy suit. However, we know that this isn't true based on the characters being separate in Ultimate Custom Night, and just the coloring and the size. Since Golden Freddy is much smaller than Fredbear would be, since Fredbear would have to accommodate the human, whereas Golden Freddy wouldn't, since he would just be an animatronic and not a spring-lock suit. But if it is true, it allows for Nightmare Fredbear to be a version of Golden Freddy and thus be on this list. So, for this video and this video only, I will consider this true. And at 4, Ignited Freddy. Ignited Freddy is one of the main antagonists of the Joy of Creation fan game, which will have a new Ignited collection released as part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, ironically enough. In this game, you play as Scott Cawthon, whose creations have escaped the game and are actually coming after you. Ignited Freddy appears to be a burnt and charred Freddy Fazbear animatronic. He has no bottom jaw, exposing his endoskeleton's bottom set of rusty teeth. While you may have lost your frontal lobe in the bite of 87, this one is gonna give you tetanus too. And his left ear is also just gone, because of course it is. Ignited Freddy wears a top hat like his original counterpart and basically every other version on this list. Both of his hands are missing, along with the suit on his shins and his left forearm, okay? He has no eyes, only black holes with white pupils that stare into your soul, or in my case, the void. But yeah, you know what, at this point, not having eyes and like just having white pupils is like a staple of creepy animatronics, and I'm here for it. It makes it terrifying.
Number 3, Yendo. Yendo might initially appear to be the endoskeleton of Funtime Freddy, but it is more likely that he is actually the endoskeleton of another version of Freddy, not yet suited, as Yendo has a right hand, where Funtime Freddy would instead have Bonbon attached. Many believe that the name Yendo, which seems to be a combo of yellow and endo, alludes to him being the endoskeleton of Funtime Fredbear. Yendo plays a small but frightening role in the game FNAF Sister Location.
But ultimately, into number 2, Phantom Glamrock Freddy. While Phantom Glamrock Freddy isn't the most terrifying animatronic, it's still unsettling to see an animatronic that's supposed to be helping us in the last game get turned into a phantom animatronic. And you know what? Considering my trust issues from Baby, that's why it's at number 2, okay? It's crazy. It's nuts. While not horrific, it still puts me on edge and makes me wish that I didn't have to make these lists. This is definitely scarier than some other versions, okay? Phantom Glamrock Freddy is actually fairly visually appealing as well, which is concerning considering how it's supposed to be terrifying, but like it does this in a still pretty creepy kind of way. But it's like a nice to look at creepy, the kind that you can't really look away from. So yeah, well done. I'm gonna have trust issues forever now. And finally, in at number 1, Sinister Freddy. Sinister Freddy, while being the thumbnail of many of videos, was actually intended on releasing in the cancelled Sinister Turmoil fan game. Instead of the full game, however, we got Sinister Turmoil Sewers, which is a small section of what the full game would have been. Sinister Freddy is a brown animatronic bear with a lighter shade of brown on his stomach, snout, and the inside of his ears, as you do with cartoon bears. He appears to have damage on his suit, but small and sharp teeth, and of course, no eyes. His whole suit appears to be severely withered, having large rips and tears in several places of his body. He also sports a large needle-like weapon on both of his wrists, because of course he freaking does. He also appears to have like small geometrically shaped claws and nails in addition to those blades. So yeah, Sinister Freddy also has a mouth filled with all those sharp teeth that are like under his body, and like you can see them more, and I don't like it, okay? It's terrifying. It always deserves to be number 1, even or over the Dominibus animatronics, okay? Those are just an easy number 1, although at this point, Sinister animatronics are definitely a staple of number 1s. But you know what? That's fine. That's fine, because you know, it's creepy. Alright, I don't like it. I mean, I do like it, but like not for the right reasons. In at 9, Withered Golden Freddy. Withered Golden Freddy is an antagonist in FNAF 2. Golden Freddy is an animatronic bear and children's entertainer housed at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, along with the original versions of Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy before they get scrapped in favor of the toy animatronics. Withered Golden Freddy's appearance has not really changed much, but he does look more damaged than he did in the first game, because you know, he's missing missing one ear and it has a few wires coming out of his eye socket. His head also appears to be tilting to the left instead of to the right like it did in FNAF 1, but I mean, that's inconsequential. And in Ultimate Custom Night, after he appears when lowering your tablet, you gotta put it back up quickly to get rid of him, because staring at him for too long will end your run with an unpleasant surprise. That unpleasant surprise being death. In Innate Psychic Friend Fredbear. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. Who you gonna call? Psychic Friend Fredbear. Fredbear plush is a plush of the Fredbear animatronic owned by the Bite Victim, aka Crying Child. He first appeared in FNAF 4 and he doesn't really do anything, and he will stay on your desk and switch the currently viewed camera every few seconds, seemingly in sister location using his remote. Clicking his nose enough will prevent him from switching the camera though, meaning that you gotta love him. However, the real issue that makes him scary is his jump scare. Despite him being labeled as harmless, mess with his bigger version and he is far from it. In Ultimate Custom Night, you are able to get an item called the Death Coin that allows you to eliminate any animatronic from the game. This works with most animatronics. It removes them from play and you won't have to deal with them for the rest of the playthrough, or I guess technically life. But there is at least, to my knowledge, one animatronic this coin does not work on: Golden Freddy. If used on Golden Freddy, the Golden Fredbear plush, also known as Psychic Friend Fredbear, will jump scare you immediately, which is incredibly rude. And it's 7 Burnt Funtime Freddy. Speaking of hallucinations, what about the Burnt Funtime Freddy? Funtime Freddy wasn't even created at the time of the FNAF 3 fire, at least for us. In universe it was, but like not for us. So there was no way for them to really burn, since the next fire in the series is in the FNAF 6 pizzeria, and at that point they had turned into Molten Freddy. So this wouldn't really be able to exist in the FNAF universe, but hey, that's just semantics, okay? We don't care what's canon, at least during fan lists. There are people who legit hate this channel because I suggest things that, like, Michael is the crying child, and also they hate me because I said that like Five Nights at Wario's was a bad game, even though that whole list was supposed to be a joke. But you know what? Oh well. YouTuber Wikipedia can suck. There's also a hate post on the FNAF fandom page about the top 10 reasons Michael is the crying child video, okay? Sorry for suggesting an idea. Anyways, I'm getting off track. What I'm trying to say is that while this wouldn't make sense, that's the fun of it. Speculating and going to crazy lengths is what makes theorizing fun. And Burnt Funtime Freddy is the perfect example of that. It doesn't make sense, but it's still goddamn creepy. And while I could sit here and nitpick the character, I'm not, because if I ever saw this thing, even in the light of day, not even at night, I am running faster than I ever have before in the opposite direction, and that's on God, because I would probably be meeting him soon after, or maybe Oliver Queen, depending on what storyline is right. I'm bringing DC into it too. Boom! Arrow bursts.
Number 5. Toy Freddy. This version of Freddy first appeared in FNAF 2. He is a redesigned and improved version of the original Freddy. At least, that is what he appears to be. Toy Freddy is the mascot of the refurbished Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. His system allows him to roam during the day as well as the night, like the other animatronics in FNAF 2. Unlike the original Freddy, Toy Freddy is active on night 1 and 2 of FNAF 2. Scott Cawthon has described Toy Freddy's personality as being private and reclusive, although in the FNAF AR game Special Delivery, he appears a little more friendly.
In it for Sinister Golden Freddy. Sinister Golden Freddy was originally intended on releasing with the cancelled Sinister Turmoil fan game. Instead of the full game, however, we ended up getting Sinister Turmoil Sewers, which is a small section of what would have been the full game. Sinister Golden Freddy is a golden animatronic bear with a lighter shade of gold on his stomach, snout, and inside his ears. Small but very sharp teeth and no eyes. His whole suit appears to be severely withered, having large rips and tears all over the place. Like, just Christ, he really needs to like go to a tailor and get those fixed up. But Sinister Golden Freddy sports large needle-like weapons on his wrist as well, much like normal Sinister Freddy, and also appears to have small geometrically shaped claws and nails. Sinister Golden Freddy also has a mouth with sharp but small teeth. That's the reason he's terrifying, okay? I don't like it. It's absolutely terrifying and deserves to be number 1, even over Dormitibus animatronics, but those are just an easy number 1, and I'm not trying to torture myself anymore. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Monster Toy Freddy. Monster Toy Freddy, I guess, seems to be a fan character of a fan game, since it's a retextured version of the Monster Rat from Five Nights at Candy's, unironically another fan game set to have a new sequel in the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. However, Monster Toy Freddy doesn't actually exist in the games as far as I know. I don't think that he's ever been in a FNAF game. Which would make sense. And while this is meant to be Toy Freddy, the characters and versions I found online were basically just reskins of the Monster Rat and not really adding any additional features or anything aside from like maybe a microphone, a top hat, and a bow tie, and they're like, hey, he's Freddy. But I'm already scared of the Monster Rat, so you know what? This is good enough for me. Plus, there's Monster Golden Freddy that also pops up when you search for Monster Toy Freddy. So yeah, that's definitely a sight to see, although I gotta save the golden version for a different list if this gets a part 2. Penultimately, in at number 2, Great Escape Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy returns as an enemy in FNAF AR Special Delivery and as a playable character in Freddy in Space 2. But Great Escape Golden Freddy, or for short simply Great Escape Freddy, is the first skin Golden Freddy has gotten in FNAF AR. You received this skin as a part of the special mixed reality DLC game mode Dark Circus Encore that released in December 13th, 2021. He's available exclusively through purchasing and beating the DLC content. Great Escape Golden Freddy is identical to Golden Freddy in coloration, still being yellow, but is now a much duller shade, with black and green splotches on his head, legs, and feet. His head is severely withered in multiple areas, with most of it deteriorated or missing, including half of his top hat. His eye sockets are also completely empty, the holes going through the endoskeleton head, and a chain is running through his mouth. He wears a brown straitjacket and multiple golden chains running around it, like a G. With many locks, boxes, and giant metallic collars around his neck, these chains also run down his upper legs, and he looks like he's like dangling from them. It's genuinely one of, if not the scariest skin in FNAF AR, and it's a mobile game, so it takes a lot of time to actually make it scary, but this does it. Good job. And finally, in at number 1, Am I Real? Am I Real has 2 different forms. His first form is Cake Bear. Cake Bear's design originated from the Save Him minigame, where Freddy delivers cake to children. However, Am I Real's second form, Am I Real, is a form that much resembles Springtrap, and it also appears to be some form of Golden Freddy animatronic. This form is mostly comprised of a drab green like Springtrap, and similarly has exposed human remains inside. His right eye socket has gotten larger on the side of his head, and there's a big hole that can be seen on the right side of his head because of course there is. If you want to make an animatronic scary, you just take bits away. His top hat has received some withering on it as well. His lower jaw is slanted and worn down, no longer circular like Cake Bear's, and he has a sizable hole in the right side of his torso too, revealing his organs. Rips and tears cover his arms, revealing even more human remains, and he's just disgusting. He's meant to be a Springlock suit, but at the time that this game was released, we didn't have Fredbear as a character, meaning that this is definitely intended to be a Golden Freddy.
Number 10, Nightmare Freddy and the Freddles. Definitely one of the most frightening animatronics, Nightmare Freddy appears in FNAF 4. He is dramatically more tattered than any other version of Freddy, and seems more muscular or bulky looking. He is also so tattered that you can visibly see his endoskeleton through the hole in his stomach, which seems to almost completely separate the upper half of his costume from the lower half of his costume. His teeth are razor sharp, and he also has pointed claws protruding from his fingertips. This version of Freddy also comes with the little alternate Freddles, which are like mini versions of Nightmare Freddy, who also tend to ride around on or inside Nightmare Freddy's suit. Number 8, Lonely Freddy. This version of Freddy comes to us from the FNAF book, Fazbear Frights 2, Fetch. Lonely Freddy is similar to the Freddles, but bigger and seems a little less terrifying, at least appearance-wise. He is about the same size as Plushtrap and appears to be an animatronic-like toy. What do you think is more scary, giant animatronics or toy animatronics? I personally feel like toys are scarier because they could just sneak up on you more easily. Ugh. The Lonely Freddy we meet in the story seems to have hypnotic powers that allow him to take the place of those he hypnotizes. This version of Freddy also appears to be covered in fur. The game theorists have actually theorized that Lonely Freddy could be the same kind of animatronic as the seemingly psychic Fredbear plush that we saw in FNAF 4. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that's a good theory?
And at 7, Yendo. Yendo might initially appear to just be an endoskeleton of Funtime Freddy, but it's entirely possible and more likely that he is an endoskeleton of another version of Freddy that is not yet suited, as Yendo has a right hand where Funtime Freddy would instead typically have Bonbon attached. Many believe that the name Yendo, which seems to be a combination of endo and yellow, alludes to him being the endoskeleton of a golden variation of Funtime Freddy, or just the original Golden Freddy endoskeleton that was removed prior to the first and second game, which doesn't really make sense timeline-wise, because why would they remove Golden Freddy's endo after the whole Circus Baby debacle, and then why would his endo be in the style of the Funtimes? So my best guess is that Yendo is intended to be a Golden Freddy version of Funtime Freddy, which lets him fit in perfectly on this list. His eyes are even yellow, so I think that this is pretty solid.
Number 6, Shadow Freddy. Shadow Freddy can be seen in FNAF 2 after all other animatronics have moved. He will sometimes appear in the animatronic parts and service area. Instead of coming after or attacking the player, he simply stays put in the place where you normally would see Withered Bonnie. Instead, he will cause your game to crash or freeze if you stare at him for too long. This version version of Freddy has a similar build to Golden Freddy, except that he appears to be black in color, resembling a shadowy version of Golden Freddy. He is missing an ear and has bright glowing eyes, unlike the original Golden Freddy.
Halfway through to number 5, Golden Call. Golden Call from the Demitibus universe is more or less like Springtrap design-wise. He is a spring-locked suit with a corpse inside of him, and he has actually become green due to his color rotting and fading away. Half of Golden Call's left ear is bent, causing it to stick out in an angle, and his other ear is intact, although there is some small withering on its sides. He has a black top hat that's mainly withered towards the base, and he has a small right hole above his eye socket for some reason. They say that it's withering, although that doesn't really make sense. But I mean, like, the hole also appears to be connected to his right eye socket, which makes it slightly bigger than normal, or like, and then on the left side of his head, there's a huge hole from withering, okay? I mean, and there's a bit more withering on the other side of his head too. He's in a mess, okay? Another batch of a red substance is sticking to the top section of his head, or like to that section, the left side, right side, whatever it is, which is most likely blood or some form of flesh. Golden Call also has a set of endoskeleton eyes in his head that have red pupils, and then the eyes of his corpse are then hanging out below those and just dangling in his face. Great. Those eyes are blue, because that matters. He has a bit of withering on his snout. His lower jaw is just, it has some withering as well. It's messed up, okay? What organs that you could see, I don't want to know what those are, okay? And his entire torso is heavily just destroyed. And his pelvis has like a single hole in the front of it that reveals some form of blood vessel or muscles. But you know what? Given its placement, I don't really want to inquire further, so I'm gonna move on.
Number 4, Golden Freddy. Golden Freddy first appears in the original FNAF game, although it is tricky to run into him. Not that you'll likely want to do that, because then he'll most likely kill you. In the first FNAF game, Golden Freddy was actually referred to as Yellow Bear. Unlike other animatronics, Golden Freddy is more sneaky. His approach is not as easily indicated in the game, and if he does show up in the office, the only way to avoid death is by quickly bringing up your surveillance monitor. If the player succeeds in doing this, this will cause Golden Freddy to disappear. Golden Freddy appears to be a deactivated version of Fredbear. That's what he looks like to me anyways. He is missing his eyes, and his hat and bow tie appear to be a dark metallic blue color. Number 2, Funtime Freddy. I love all the Funtime animatronics, but I also think that Funtime Freddy might actually be one of the most frightening of all of them. Funtime Freddy is one of the animatronics belonging to the Funtime Auditorium of Circus Baby's Entertainment and Rental from the game FNAF Sister Location. Funtime Freddy has a different color scheme from the Freddy that we see in FNAF 1. Instead, Funtime Freddy is white and kind of a light purple. He holds a microphone in his left hand and animatronic puppet Bon Bon on his right. Or, well, Bon Bon is kind of more part of him than being held, really. In place of a hand, Funtime Freddy has Bon Bon attached to the end of his arm, making it look like he is holding a puppet. Number 1, Fredbear. While Fredbear is his own animatronic, you could consider him an alternate to Freddy Fazbear, in the sense that he was basically the original version of Freddy Fazbear. Fredbear is the animatronic that Freddy Fazbear would be based off of, and he was the original mascot of Fredbear's Family Diner. Similar to Spring Bonnie, Fredbear is also a spring-lock model and has a slightly different shape than Freddy, who would follow after him. Fredbear, of course, is more similar to Golden Freddy in appearance, except that his accessories are a different color. But he still is the animatronic who inspired the creation of Freddy Fazbear, and for that, he deserves some recognition. I mean, we probably wouldn't have Freddy Fazbear without Fredbear.